Yeah, yeah. We care a lot about the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. You're listening to the Ruthless Politics Podcast with
Kid Chronic
and Treez. This is episode number 4.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
I'm very well.
Wonderful. A lot of stress for my boy over here, but we're going to get through this. And sometimes, politics is stressful as well. So,
It's certainly a busy time in the news, that's for sure.
It's a very busy time. This is a huge news cycle. When is it not a huge news cycle?
Not in the Trump era.
Not in the Trump era.
Never in the Trump era.
No, for sure. We got a lot to go over. We're going to jump right in. But again, you listen to episode number 4. We're at the Space Coast Podcast Studios. You got Jesse Podcast on the ones and twos doing his thing here. And out of sunny Florida. Very hot, 95 degrees. And the alligators are out. You had a good weekend?
I had a great weekend.
Yeah.
I watched the women's soccer game, which I think is where we're going to start off. So that was pretty awesome. I was happy to see them win.
You're very happy?
For them, it's 2 World Cups in a row and 4 total World Cup victories.
So what does that tell you? Does that tell you that they're that dominant, or does it tell you that they're also part of maybe a weak field? Does anybody pay attention to the status? Well, why don't we get into this? Because I have my opinion on this. I'm very happy that the women won. It is a victory no matter what. They can only play who they have to play. I always hear this in sports. Well, you beat up on shitty teams in your division or whatever. Well, you can only play who they make you play. You know what I mean? And the object is to win. So
yes, and they were in the toughest bracket, so that's important.
That is true too. They were in a tough bracket. So why don't you tell us? You're very proud. Women's soccer goes ahead and wins.
Here's what I think is important to know about the women's soccer team, right? Is one, that they won with flair, that they won decisively. And I think it's a sign that not only are they better, and not only maybe is a competition a little bit weaker, but it's a sign that American society is better, that their freedom maybe makes them a little bit better. And so I think the U.S. soccer team embodies what's best of America. What's interesting about them, too, now, a few interesting things about the women's soccer team is that their collective bargaining agreement is up in 2021. Mm-hmm. So this little uproar and this success that they're having right now is coming at like the best possible time.
Sure.
And they have a lot of media attention. They're also winning more trophies than the men. On the same day that they won the World Cup, the men lost a regional to Mexico.
They did.
And now they're bringing in more money than the men. So what argument can U.S. soccer have not to pay them equally or more?
You can't make that argument anymore. And at the end of the day, so my opinion is I do feel they play inferior talent. And I do think that amongst they're giants amongst a lot of these countries or whatever. These women are very, very physically gifted, and God bless them. They work hard to do that. But you're right. The men, I actually looked this up yesterday. The men are currently ranked 30th in the world in FIFA. When they were last in the World Cup, and people may have forgotten, they missed the last World Cup to Panama. Of all countries, knocked them out in one of those smaller tournaments that kept them from even going to the World Cup. So keep that in mind. The men didn't even make the last World Cup. But when they performed really, really well, I think they were 16th in the world, which was like the highest they had ever been. It was a big, big deal, like where they were like, American soccer's finally taking its foothold. We're making it there, and they've fallen out. And all the big names that you know, Alexi Lawless and Landon Donovan, all those guys, they're not on that team anymore. So it's a lot of names you're not familiar with. The women, without a doubt, deserve equal as far as USA team goes. There is one difference. They say they're generating more money. I didn't see the parameters of how that was determined, whatever. I do know that the purse for the Women's World Cup was like $40 million. And the men's is $300 million. So worldwide, there's a total different interest. Where I think the difference really is, and I'm not sure, and you may know this better than me, where these women are arguing also for equal pay, is in their club performances, in their private soccer world. I defy anybody first to name me 3 women's soccer player, 3 women that are on that team, like in 5 seconds, name me 3. But I would even defy anybody to tell me, name one club that any of those women are on. And they wouldn't be able to do it. And unfortunately, there's no interest, and therein lies sometimes the problem with money. It's a lack of interest, a lack of advertising dollars. When you go down to the club level
into those sports teams, they're privately held organizations, so it's hard when it's a privately held organization to force them to pay more.
This is true.
But for U.S. soccer, that's a little bit different. So I think that's where they definitely, when the new collective bargaining agreement goes down in 2021, they're going to come in with a lot of power, and they're going to get a lot of the things they want. And they made other good points, too. You know, the women's soccer game was on with 3 other championships championships the same day.
Right.
And the women are like, well, we're a pretty big show. Why aren't we the only championship? They say it's a World Cup.
It's a fair gripe.
Yeah.
The other sports play nice when it comes to that. You're not going to see something go. They don't put the World Series against, the Super Bowl or what have you when these things are running. I know hockey and basketball can run concurrent, and they play cool with each other. So, yeah, without a doubt, I think the women have proven they should get equal pay when it comes to the world market. As far as club goes, they're not going to see any Ronaldo.
Do you know who else the other big winner is?
Who's that?
Nike. Nike is all over them. They have checks all over them, commercials coming out all the time. Right after they won the game, they had a great commercial that came out, and Nike's stock is soaring.
There's no doubt that Nike is considered a woke company, and they did not go woke, go broke. And Nike will always make money. I don't think it's a surprise that Nike is a premier athletic shoe apparel company. They're always going to make money. They're the biggest and baddest. They've always been since the Jordan era. So, yeah, they've gotten very woke with the Kaepernick thing and the women's soccer thing and this and that. And,
they're aggressive. Their marketing is aggressive in the sort of political theater, but somehow they've navigated it pretty well.
Yeah, they always have been. All right, so I guess we kind of agree on that. Give the women their money. Listen, they are running circles around the men as far as what their competition,
Yeah, I thought this was America. We pay the winners here. Winners get paid.
But I do believe that
capitalism.
Listen, the Patriots, the dynasty of what the Patriots are doing against that NFL is very impressive because ask Dan Marino, man, it's hard to get to the fucking Super Bowl. What I'm watching the women do, I feel like they're beating up on inferior talent, but that's who they're supposed to play. They can only do what they got to do. So you can't
college
really
football. Go to college football if you want to see people beat up on inferior talent.
This is true.
Happens every weekend.
Happens every weekend. All right, this one's probably right up your alley. So we have we're going to take it across the pond to the other pond to Paris-stan, as they call it in France. Was this all in Paris? Was it out of Paris-stan?
Basically, it kind of goes like this. I think that what happened is they went on this, they went to the G20.
This is about Ivanka Trump.
Yeah, they went to the G20, Trump did, and he kind of started subbing Ivanka in for diplomats in different situations. So what ended up happening is at the G20, Ivanka sat in at a lot of meetings, and then she was at the DMZ in North Korea, remember? And she was popping in at other meetings in South Korea. And so what happened is I think the diplomats got a little bit mad, and then some foreign dignitaries kind of outed her, and so they posted this video, the French government did, of her kind of stepping into a conversation, and it was apparent that she didn't have a good grasp on what they were talking about. And that kind of goes along with other videos she's released recently.
Like AOC.
Which seem a little staged and propped up, and so she was just getting hammered online for basically, I guess, being the daughter diplomat.
I was going to say, is it fair to hate her? Is she just getting hate because she's a Trump? Like, is she that shitty? Like, for instance, okay, if you think Donald Trump is that shitty and you hate him, do you hate everybody associated with him? Is that fair? Like, Ted Bundy's sister may be a sweet girl. Like, she didn't have nothing to do with this guy's shit, right?
I get that, but I think that the thing with Ivanka is that people wanted to give her like a pass, so they tried to give her a pass. But as the Trump years got worse, they wanted her to stand up for some things, to call him out in some things, to kind of be a younger voice of reason, be the millennial in the room, if you will. Yeah. It is her father, though, and so she kind of pussied out on it. And now she kind of seems to be trying to benefit from the Trump administration with Chinese patents and, doing these staged things.
Kind of doing what everybody does in all these positions, as we now know.
I guess, yeah, but it seems like a little bit more...
Yeah.
A little bit faker with Ivanka. And then I think the other thing is, too, it's like funny because she's kind of in denial. She never addresses any of the scandal or things that are going on with her family. And so it's like, it seems like she's living in another world.
I didn't know that much about Ivanka other than I thought she was extremely, extremely attractive. And she's not even my type. I prefer the...
She's very pretty.
I prefer the senoritas, but she's just, what a darling. When I saw Jared Kushner for the first time and realized that that's who she got with, she won 1,000,000 points with me in her genuineness, because this is a girl who could really be with anybody. You know what I mean? She could be with the big muscle NFL guy, whoever she fucking wants. We know that. And she's with a, like, aside from his, he's got some wealth, and there's a lot of people that are wealthy, but she was like kind of with a regular dude.
So you give her points for like nerd dating?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, maybe she would date a guy like me.
I don't think, I'm not, this guy's out of my league, man. This guy's out of my league.
I think that Jared Kushner thing fits into her family, though. He does like kind of sketchy New York City real estate deals. That's what she grew up in, so maybe she feels comfortable there.
I would love to see the other guy she's dated going into that, because her dating history is very quiet, if you've noticed. Like, I don't really know who she's been tied to. Nobody's seedier that's of any interest to anybody. But Kushner, look, she's being picked on unnecessarily. Now, you can make the point that she is not a diplomat, and nor should she be in that role doing that. But he reserves the right to do whatever he wants with his family, and Chelsea Clinton was the head of a foundation, and she has no say.
But she wasn't making world deals. She wasn't working in geopolitics.
She's not smart enough to, maybe.
There's also, if you look out there, they have this huge list going of like words Ivanka doesn't understand. So she kind of tries to talk smart, and she uses these same words like, not in the proper form, like all the time. So if you look online,
like
Stephen
AOC.
Colbert does a good thing on it too.
AOC
so she's easy to pick on, and I think
she doesn't use like and all the time. Like
no,
AOC does.
She's smarter than
You have to give her that.
Yeah, she's maybe smarter than an AOC. I'll give you that in her public persona.
But
I think
a phony.
that's part of the problem too. Her public persona is so polished. It's almost like a Hillary Clinton. It's so polished that people see through it.
Well, and I give you that. And that's the difference between her father. He's not polished at all. He just does what he wants. And she is extremely polished. And that's why people think, listen, she's very ideologically different than this guy. She's not going to call out her father. How bad would that be? What would the media do if she undermines her father? What would the headlines be like? Even your own daughter doesn't love or support you, whatever. She would never do that. So I like that loyalty. As someone who has very little family, I appreciate that she does that. And I think it's wrong for us to expect it. However, she is ideologically different.
Family members should be able to disagree in a professional manner. She should find a way to have more influence. And it seems like she's really just interested in like serving herself and getting on camera.
Well, what is the influence? Is she going to change his policy on immigration?
Maybe not. Maybe just educate the guy a little bit.
Well, I don't know.
Just kind of sand the rough edges off a little.
Yeah, I don't know. It's either you want the wall or you don't. It seems like at this point. So I don't know where you can, where she can go with that. But I think she'd be undermining the guy a little bit.
What else is interesting, too, is after all this happened, she got trashed online. All these unwanted Ivanka memes and pictures came out. They were hilarious. And then what ended up happening is there was a huge bot push online, which was pushing for Ivanka to be the first female president. So the Trumps or the Republicans or somebody out there, they're still pushing a lot of online propaganda through these social media sites. And it's interesting that they even backed up and protected Ivanka's online image with them.
I don't know about that. I know you're big on Russian bots, and we know they certainly exist. I think there's bots of all kinds that exist from every country. But
and it may be that Republicans have American bots by now.
Yeah, perhaps, right?
Or both sides.
Start our own bots.
Yeah.
But I think that there was a time that Ivanka could have had presidential aspirations. I think the hatred of her father now has ruined that. Her name, she will never win. She can run, obviously. Anybody can run. Look at those Democratic candidates that are running. Marianne Williamson's running. God bless her. But she has no shot. Her name is tarnished.
Well, I'll tell you how she could do it. She could do it if she somehow could separate herself from her father's administration. If she took a lower political job that she could probably get easy,
right,
and then she worked her way up and like had a few good things happen along the way and championed some causes. That's the problem, is that the only thing that she has to ride on is her dad's identity, and her dad's identity sucks.
Well, yeah, and right, she's held no political office, so she
has no record of her own.
She can't run for anything until like she's got to play at least the Hillary Clinton route and jump into a senatorial seat or something. You got to fucking get started. So there's really no real aspirations except maybe down the road. She will not be the first woman candidate. I think Michelle Obama, if Kamala or Elizabeth Warren doesn't win, I do believe Michelle Obama is going to get traipsed out in the next election after this one. And I think she has a legitimate shot as anybody to win. I think that's fucking scary as fuck.
Michelle Obama could definitely win if she ran, but she has always said, she has steadfast said that she would never run and doesn't want any part of it.
Well, and that's possible. That is possible. They went through a lot of shit. So that puts Ivanka to rest. France, go easy on her. I mean, for fuck's sake, we saved your guys' asses. Okay, then we've got, this is an interesting one. And this is another free speech issue. As you know, there's been a lot of free speech problems when it comes to social media and what's allowed, what's not, what's hate speech, and all these crazy things. But here's another one that kind of is in its own world as well. And I feel this ties into the whole bullying thing as well. And I'm going to let you kind of take it from here. But tell us about this girl. I'm going to try to, what's her name here? Pull up her name.
Okay, this is a story that I brought over to you because I thought it was interesting. And we've always talked about it before. The girl's name is Michelle Carter. And she had a boyfriend. And she texted him and called him and basically convinced him or, now I'm not going to say convinced, coerced him in a way to help commit suicide. And the kid actually did it. I mean, he called her on it, and he did it. He committed suicide. Not funny at all. But now that happened,
not funny at all, as I laugh.
Yeah, she was trying to ruin his life, and he commits suicide. Now he's ruined her life, and she's had to go through the legal process, and she has been sentenced to involuntary manslaughter, something like 15 months.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, boom, lawyers come out of nowhere and say, nope, Supreme Court needs to hear this case. It is free speech protected, and the whole thing needs to be tossed.
So yeah, that's the angle, is like, you're allowed to say whatever you want to somebody. That's their fucking problem, what they do with it. Found guilty in 2017. She was sentenced 15 months. This happened in Massachusetts. Her 18-year-old boyfriend, Conrad Roy III.
Oh, the third, of course.
Conrad Roy. This guy,
if
first
you want
of all,
to jinx your child, name him the third.
Yeah, well, jinx him. If you're a third, you come from some good shit. You shouldn't be killing yourself. You know what I mean? I can understand other people that kill themselves, but if you're a third or a fourth, that's called lineage. You know what I mean? So, and in Massachusetts. So I'm going to guess that this motherfucking kid's family had a little bit of money. So it probably wasn't, life ain't so fucking bad. That being said, I assume that where do you fall on this issue? Should she be going to jail?
I'm a flip-flopper, because when we always talked about this before, I always said this girl is guilty. I'd read the text messages. I didn't like the tone of the text messages. But then I heard this argument that it's a free speech issue, and it was like, bam, it is a free speech issue. As disgusting as this speech is, and it's probably the worst speech ever, it has to be protected.
So here's what this bitch said to this kid that pushed him over the edge in his car. So they discovered the text. He was contemplating this. He was in the car. He's reaching out to her. I don't know what to do. I don't know. What do I do? What do I do? And this is what she says. I thought you wanted to do this. The time is right and you're ready. You just need to do it. You can't keep living this way. Those are one of dozens of texts.
Terrible. Absolutely fucking terrible.
So now there's no doubt she had a hand in what he did. There's absolutely no doubt. But the question is, like you said, can't somebody just say what they want? So here's a little bit more.
Well, like what if somebody on the radio or on a podcast like us said, everyone jump off a building right now and 100 people do? Are we now on the hook for a mass suicide? You know what I'm saying? So it's
possibly.
Obviously what she did is horrible, and obviously morally definitely wrong. But in a free speech society, the whole theory is all speech is protected. And this is just the newest person that's pushed the envelope even farther.
I don't know what's going on there. Oh, it's this stupid thing here. Hold on here. Fucking ad, these goddamn pop-up banner things. I apologize. What you just mentioned is a call to action. There's actually a legal thing to that. So, like, for instance, if you tell somebody to do something specific to, like, a group, you can be on the hook for that in some way. Or they're certainly going to try to blame you. When I think it's a one-on-one conversation, I can't see. Look, this is just a clear thing.
You also have a right-wing Supreme Court right now, right? So they're going to be like a freedom-friendly court a little bit, you would think. So I don't know, man. Look, they tried to do Larry Flint back in the day is the one that we all know, the free speech case with Hustler. And that was pretty appalling, right? Now, this is horrible because it took a life, but it's just speech at the end of the day. If you say something to someone and they do something, I don't know that you can cross that bridge.
Well, here's what this would open up to me. And if I was the defense attorney, and I think I would have made a fucking amazing defense attorney, I would then say, okay, then this is what we need to do. Then we have to set a precedent. We have to go back now to every person's suicide, go through their text messages, and see who talks shit to them or bothered them or that we can now lay blame on for that suicide, because that's what you're doing with her. You're laying blame. Now, hers is an easy one to find. It's a direct conversation that pushed him over the edge. But what's to say a guy killed himself because he had a fight with his wife, and we go back and look through the text, and she's like, you ain't nothing but a bitch. You a piece of shit. You this, whatever. And she downs the guy. I probably should have done that accent. But she just shits on the guy, right? I'm thinking of that RZA song, Domestic Violence. But she shits on the guy. He kills himself. Can now she be liable because we look back and say, hey, man, if anyone was all over this guy, it was you. Doesn't it kind of set a weird precedent?
Or what if you're like a horrible parent and you don't let your kid do anything, but you haven't broken any laws, then your kid kills himself,
Right.
Or if you're just on
if
the
you're
hook
a parent
for
that
some
downs
weird
your
thing.
kids.
Yeah, you don't let your kid go to the prom, the kid kills themselves. Or just something,
Or that, yeah. Or you're never going to be good. No, you can't do this. You're never going to be good at anything.
And that's why the law won't split the hair. I think they're going to protect this girl's speech.
here's a little more of what happened here. June 19th. Carter urges Roy to seek medical attention. So here she's trying to help him. This is why this may be a troll. See, Kid Chronic had an interesting point. Excuse me. She may have been trolling this guy, and this is when, like with Dave Chappelle, when keeping
she
it real
definitely was trolling
far.
him. She was trolling him like, oh, you say you're going to do it, but you're not going to do it. Like, I don't think she actually thought he was, or maybe she was so sick of him talking like this, or whatever their weird relationship was. But she was definitely trolling him. And then I feel like the suicide is the reverse troll, right? Oh, you're trolling me. You say I won't do it. Well, boom, I'm going to do it. Now live with that.
Listen, that's why a lot of people do commit suicide. It's that so I'll show you
this
theory.
Is some real complex, like, interhuman relations.
Carter says, but the mental hospital would help you. I know you don't think it, but what I'm telling you, it would give them a chance. They could save your life. And he wrote, part of me wants you to try. Oh, she then says, part of me wants you to try something and fail just so you can get that help. He wrote, it doesn't help. Trust me. And she said, so what are you going to do then? You keep being all talk and no action. See, it's like it's suicide overload.
You know what, though,
how
dude?
much are you going to fucking
You know what, though,
threaten
dude?
it?
How many of us have had, like, weird things with, like, teenage relations, like where you gave a friend, like, bad advice, or you just did something horrible that you would never do as an adult or whatever? These kids are pretty young. They're in high school. High school people are the worst fucking humans, dude. And this might be the worst case of the worst fucking humans, but is it really a crime? I don't know.
Listen, I keep reading this. I think we have to do a whole separate thing on this. These are classic, by the way. I know this is a sensitive subject, but I got to tell you. So on July 4th, she says, you're going to have to prove me wrong because I just don't think you really want to do this.
Oh,
you just keep
God.
pushing it off to another night. And you say it, but you never do it. And then she wrote, see, that's what I mean. You keep pushing it off. You said you're going to do it tonight. I mean,
you know, and here's
really
but, okay,
pushy,
so
huh?
but what about this? So he says every night apparently that he wants to kill himself. You're his friend. What is your liability? Maybe you just get sick of fucking hearing it, and you're just pissed off, and you're like, okay, fucking do it, dude. I'm calling your bluff. Fucking do it. Every night you call me with this bullshit. Fuck you. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. And then all of a sudden he does it. Well, you didn't really want him to do it. You were just sick of the bullshit.
I'm a big free speech guy.
Oh man, this one's gnarly.
I think if this girl goes to jail for that, it sets a very bad precedent. We're fucked. I think that it opens a can of worms and it's like Kid Chronic. It's what they do with the tweets with a lot of these people. Kevin Hart had it happen. All these people. You're gonna go dig back and find all the bad things someone said. So it's one way to destroy you and hurt your situation, but for it to maybe put you in jail. Yeah, because you may have done something like that.
There is a society and a family thing where there's a victim here now, so someone has to be punished, you know? And as horrible as what this girl did, she still should be punished by what the actual law is. And I don't know that just talking can be considered manslaughter.
I can tell you now that there's bullying going on every day, and all of these kids, none of these kids are getting in trouble. And they're bullying kids and saying all this shit and doing way worse than what I'm reading here, whatever she did to push him or troll him or whatever. And nobody's getting in trouble for this. You know what I mean? We have a bigger problem here of fucking with people. And I don't see that bullying is covered by free speech in anywhere or anything like that. But I think that, this is a scary precedent. I don't know if anybody else has gone to jail for something like this.
She goes to the Supreme Court, right? And she wins. She wins a Supreme Court decision. What does her life look like after that? What do? Do you go home? Do you go back to the school? I mean, you're like famous for texting someone that killed themselves. Yeah. Well, you know, so no matter what, there's a punishment here for her that she is literally living every day.
Absolutely. And I think there's also some guilt and pain here.
She'll never live that down. I mean, that's her for life.
This was her boyfriend. Let's keep it in mind that she felt this person was good enough in her eyes to love him and at least in some way like him or care about him. You know, that's in a sense, that's what a girlfriend or a wife is. You know what I mean? And so she obviously had feelings for this person. Yeah, I think it gets old if your boyfriend's talking about suicide every fucking day.
Yeah, I agree. So it's hard to take the text in context. That's why you never go through someone's phone. If you look through someone's phone, a lot of times texts, it's hard to read the actual context and know people's relationships and how often they talked about this stuff or what the actual feelings were behind her statements.
There is no context.
Nonetheless,
in
though,
text
they're fucking
messages.
horrible statements. I mean, she shouldn't have done it. I mean, that's no doubt.
No, she's a total asshole and a bitch. You could be a little more delicate. Talk about fucking bedside manner. I mean,
Yeah, or you could have reached out to his parents maybe,
Yeah,
or like a
maybe.
counselor at school, or freaking called the suicide hotline. I don't fucking know.
yeah, like
But
ring the bells.
telling him to do it is not the right thing to do in that situation.
I think they were leaving out that like she's like hitting the joint, like, fucking do it then, dude. I don't know. I mean, like clearly she's
but if
no one in their right mind should be
if
giving
the
this kind of
story
advice.
here is that high school girls text really mean shit, then that's just that's
Well,
not even a story.
You hit on the head. Also, they did make a movie called Mean Girls. These girls are bitches, okay? And this girl's probably a bitchy chick. From what I'm looking at her, she certainly looks like it. Her eyebrows look like a Bratz doll. But she went about it the wrong way. Should she do jail time over it? That's pretty scary.
Yep, it is.
All right,
How about another guy that's going to do jail time? Segue.
Well, we got a segue for some jail time. Is it break time? Why don't we take a break? We're going to get into our big story. We've been talking about women's soccer and whether they should be paid on the same level as the men. We talked about Ivanka Trump and how those French and Paris stand, they don't like her. And we even talked about this nutty girl that pushed her friend to the brink. Much more to come. Ruthless Politics.
Listening to Space Coast Podcast, home of the greatest podcasts on the Space Coast. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor or having your own show, email us at spacecoastpodcast@hotmail.com. Space Coast Podcast. Talk hard!
Hey, I'm Vinny with the all-new Vinny Marino Podcast. I want you to join me every other Monday as we tackle all the craziest headlines from around Florida and truly explore and uncover what's missing. Also, we will invite the exciting guests from our community who have seen it all and aren't afraid to spill the beans about it. And finally, we can't forget about Vinny's top 3 rants and raves about traffic, restaurants, and events. Join us on Facebook as we go live and bring you behind the scenes of each show and let you be a part of it. The Vinny Marino Podcast, all Space Coast, super raw and unedited, straight to your dome all the time, live from the Space Coast Podcast Studios. Listen everywhere you find podcasts.
Hey, smart people. Because you got to be smart to even be listening to this show. No dummies allowed. Join me every week, Mr. Josh W. on the Mr. Josh W. podcast. You're going to hear me rant and rave about politics, current events, social media and SJWs, sports, cryptocurrency, sex, 420 and CBD culture. Hell, we can even talk about how your grandma won bingo 3 times yesterday. And good for her. She deserves it. She plays a lot. We'll even have interviews, panel discussions, and the occasional game show. Now you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube under Mr. Josh W. You spell that out, MisterJoshw. Very easy to find. And all this good stuff is coming to you live from the Space Coast Podcast Studios in sunny Florida. Benny Kravitz. Did you know that?
I love Lenny Kravitz.
No, that's Benny Kravitz.
Oh, Benny Kravitz?
We can't use Lenny Kravitz.
That's Benny Kravitz, his
that's a
long-lost
different riff.
cousin.
Yeah. It
Hey,
sounds
cousin
like it, right?
Benny, I got that new sound you're looking for.
I got your riff. This is okay, royalty free on the internet. Yeah, that's Benny Kravitz, man. Fucking sweet, sweet riff.
Benny is
Good
no
stuff.
joke.
Yeah, yeah. This it's time to get serious, folks. This is the big serious stuff. Me and the kid here probably have some different opinions on this one. So you're, by the way, we're back from the break. Ruthless Politics, episode number 4, sponsored by CBDpedia and Pure Clear Hemp. Some good stuff there. Remember, CBD is a life-changing situation that you want to check out if you've never done it. Look into that. And you even get a discount on CBDpedia, correct?
Yeah, you can use coupon code KidChronic or Treez for 20% or 10% off your entire cart.
Well, there you go. So one guy who needs CBD more than anybody right now is billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire hedge fund. By the way, everybody, look up this hedge fund shit. All these people make a lot of money. We should be looking into what the fuck's going on there.
They make a lot of money fast, too. Yeah, but I don't want to go down this side.
No, we do not. We don't. So Jeffrey Epstein, everybody knows this. Unless you're living under a rock, this is the big story. It's sensational because it involves sex. It involves minors. It's got politics. It's got famous people attributed. What's going on here? What's Jeffrey doing?
Well, I'm going to give you a little credit on this one because I got to be honest. Treez was onto this story a long time ago, and you told me about this story, and it was so sensational that I didn't really buy it all at first. Everybody was like, Bill Clinton's involved, and he's on a jet, and I'm like, okay, well, this is another pervy Bill Clinton story, and but I didn't put the weight into it that it actually, this story has tentacles throughout all of politics, and it crosses oceans. We have a prince involved here. We have Donald Trump involved. We have Bill Clinton involved. It seems like a lot Bill Clinton is involved. And this guy had a Rolodex, basically a black book, if you will, that was released, and it had everything in there from girls' numbers, massage parlors, all kinds of, well-to-do people. And the basic gist of it is I guess that he was arrested in Miami. Right? He was arrested.
Originally.
He was arrested in West Palm Beach. I'm sorry. West Palm Beach. He was in South Florida.
Time.
Yep, and he served time. It was a small sentence.
And it was bullshit, as you know. He spent a lot of time. He was allowed to go to his office and work. He wasn't confined to a prison cell. He had it very easy.
Yeah, 6 days a week he could go to his office work. I guess the guy has to work on Saturday.
And I believe this was for 18 months or something like that, a year and a half, I believe, or something like that.
It was under 2 years.
Yes.
Short amount of time.
Yes.
And everybody else that was involved with him, a woman who was a handler and other people, they got full immunity.
Yes.
And then also the victims weren't notified that this was even going on.
No.
So there's a lot of questions to how this basically plea bargain agreement got set up, or was a non-prosecutorial agreement, which I guess is even better than a plea bargain.
So apparently there was different factions from West Palm Beach Police and different people from the chain up. With Alex Acosta.
Alex Acosta is our labor secretary, who is basically the main guy on the deal.
He was the prosecutor on the deal. I believe he was pressured. I don't think he made this decision himself. There's no fucking way on his pay grade he made this decision himself. But he was the one that was going to hang for it, and they gave him the light sentence, which nobody can understand. So he is on the hook as the guy who was in the decision that let Epstein get off so easily. And yes, by chance now, as we know, Donald Trump's tied to Epstein, West Palm Beach connection. We're going to find out if there's more. But they certainly know each other for many years in West Palm and in New York. Trump's a New York guy. Epstein also having that apartment in Manhattan. Acosta is now the labor secretary for Trump. So, yes, this looks bad. Listen, even as a Trump fan, let me just make this point. This is the swamp. This is why they use the term. All these motherfuckers know each other. And coincidentally now, why this also takes another twist, is that guess who the prosecutor this time is in New York?
Isn't it Mueller's daughter or something?
It's James Comey's daughter.
James Comey's daughter. That's
so
it.
Everybody, if you don't think this is a fucking soap opera, James Comey, the guy that Trump fired, the guy who set the whole storm off, that's why you have a Robert Mueller investigation, his daughter is now going after Epstein with a Trump tie. Well, this is going to get massive. Now, let me just say one other thing. If you're going to take Trump down, you have to take Bill Clinton down too, because I believe Bill Clinton's way more involved.
That's my
Are
whole
you willing
point.
in the chess
That's
game
my
to
whole
sacrifice
point.
him?
That's what I think happened. So here's my take on it. So I think that everybody knew about the Epstein thing. He was probably going to get some serious trouble, but Alan Dershowitz was involved. Maybe Trump wasn't that important at the time, but Bill Clinton was involved. And they're like, you know what? We're not going to take down a president over this. We're not.
Right.
We're absolutely not going to do that. This is a good standing president. And so he got this easy deal. Fast forward, now we're in the Trump years, right? And Trump has skated by through the skin of his teeth in all these lucky scenarios to all these different possible charges. And everyone's starting to look back at the Epstein thing and say, wait a second here. There may be something here with this Epstein thing. And so what ends up happening is in Florida, he has immunity. He doesn't in New York, and it's federal immunity. So the state in New York starts looking at all this and starts to put together a master case for a much bigger crime. And I think that they made a calculation, and they said this. You know what? If we've got to take down Bill Clinton to get Donald Trump, fuck it. Let's do it.
Now, again, that is what's going to happen if you're going to get Donald Trump.
That's the calculation that was made.
Yeah, and by the way, they're not the only two that go down. If you're going to start indicting other people that you think
Alan Dershowitz is
he's
definitely
going down as well. That's right. So there's a list. Kevin Spacey may go down. There's other people there's a lot of people. You got to research this. A lot of people think this ties into Pizzagate in some way, that Jeffrey Epstein, okay, so let's give you some more background on this. They call it a sex ring. He was doing this in New Mexico. He was doing it in New York. He was doing it in Miami. So wherever he had a residence, I guess they call it a ring, because he had just girls in every city down to come to him. So I want to talk about the whole victimhood thing and about these girls on a side note here as well, because I think I have a different opinion than a lot of the people. And maybe it's because I worked in the sex business, so I was around a lot of girls that maybe looked at things differently. I don't know, but there's no doubt that this was illegal. You can't have sex with minors. So these girls are 14, 15, 16, they're saying, in that area. A lot of massaging going on. I don't know if everyone was having out-and-out sex, but these girls were definitely duped into massage leads to more. And some of the girls have told stories where, they're getting groped or touched or whatever, and perhaps fellatio and shit like that. But here's my problem. When are you not a victim when you've done this now for the 10th time? Regardless of your age, you went home, you spent that money, you went back for more money. You went home, you hung out, you're being jet set. So not only are they doing this, but they're on Lear jets. I know people that would cut their pinky off to go in a limo to go on Jerry Springer. That's how fucking shitty their life is. You know what I mean? They went after girls that were poor, trailer park girls, girls skipping school, the cigarette crowd, They went after an easy target that needed the money. And then you heard how a lot of these girls, including this Ghislaine Maxwell, who was his girlfriend that procured girls, and they had others. He had a butler that procured girls. He had it all. When these other girls are getting other girls, and they said there was tons of them. I mean, I'm hearing numbers in the thousands over the time that he's been with all these. How are you a victim if you're now bringing in other victims? And don't you deserve some blame? If that girl's going to go to jail for talking to that boy about telling him to do that, what's the blame for the girl that blew Jeffrey Epstein and then brought 4 other girls there to blow him?
Well, and that's one of the girls. That's one of the victims. Well, so, man, this is a tough one. This is a really razor-thin hair to split, and I guess we're going to do that here today. So
I'm just interested.
This is what I think about it, okay? I think this is what happens. When you're a billionaire, they have so much money that they start kind of buying people. Right. And if he was buying an escort of age or go to a place where escorts are legal, I don't think he would have as much problem. I think this is a case of pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. He had to keep having more girls. He had to set up this whole network, and then he had to hook up the politicians and all this, and he had to coerce the girls. And yes, he let them go. And yes, maybe girls had a financial benefit to hanging with a billionaire. But I just think in the eyes of society, they feel like he reached too far, too many times, was too flamboyant about it, and that will land you in jail every time.
He broke the law. There's no doubt about it. He's going to go to jail. And he deserves to.
Why couldn't he date 18-year-old girls? You know what I'm saying? He's a billionaire. And 18 would still be very young for him. But it would be legal. Or 21. What's wrong with a 22, 23-year-old girl, Jeffrey Epstein? Like, why the fuck are you dating 16-year-olds? You have jets and mansions. You have everything a man needs to get whatever woman he wants.
Because we have a pedophile epidemic that people want to talk about. Because when people want to say Pizzagate's not real, I wish it wasn't either. I'm no fucking dummy, man. I went and I researched that hard. And I'm not going to go off in a Pizzagate tangent, but when you're talking about rings and children and procuring whatever, there's other people doing that. The whole Nexium thing, he just went down, this Rainier guy. Nexium's tied to Epstein. There's actual Epstein's tied to people. I'm going to drop a name on you that you really got to look up, and it's the Bronfmans. So Claire Bronfman's tied to Nexium. Benjamin Bronfman is the big-time attorney, another Jewish guy, coincidentally, who's a big Epstein guy, and Bronfman defends all the celebrities. You can look it up. Benjamin Bronfman, Bronfman. The Bronfmans are bad, man. There's no other way to put it. The Bronfmans are bad, and Claire is tied to Nexium. They're tied into Epstein. We have a pedophile problem. I think it's very sad to say. I think it's a scary, dirty world out there. I believe that all of the kids that are involved in the adoption system, the kids that are thrown away that are in that, are getting abused in that system by those people because there's no checks and balances on them. Nobody's checking on them. Nobody cares. And I believe that when you see all these missing children posters everywhere, and they are everywhere, those kids don't get found. And I think the scary, sad fact is something terrible happens to them. And it could be molested, it could be killed, it could be sold off into slavery, it could be whatever it is, or they're just chained in some guy's basement for 10 years.
That happens all the time. And then all of a sudden they come bursting out.
Yeah,
And it's like a huge
I think it's
story.
scary news, folks,
When
and
kids
we don't
do go
want to believe
missing,
it.
usually they're found like in the neighborhood. So they're in like
If they
some
are.
guy's basement like 2 blocks away. But here's the thing with all of this and splitting all of these hairs, man. I think that people are just fed up with lawlessness from the rich. And I don't think any of us
Yes.
give a shit whether it's Bill Clinton, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's anybody who may be involved in this, whether it's Alex Acosta or whatever. There needs to be some fucking accountability for these rich people. You should not be able to run basically a giant underage escort ring and then get a slap on the wrist and be in your office 6 days a week.
I agree.
You know, pay some fines, and they don't even tell the victims. And, you know, also a lot of this was in the open. There was news stories that we discussed, you know, where they had pictures of Epstein with young girls post the first arrest.
Well, shame on the media for protecting him.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean,
He
it was
protected.
unbelievable
Well, he's a
that he
big
got away with
Democratic
it this
donor.
long.
He's a big Democratic donor. He's a somebody. He spread money around, and these people like to party. You know, they're going to this island to have fucking fun.
And he is a billionaire with a B.
Yes.
You know, he is not a millionaire. His house is not an apartment. It's a building in Manhattan. He has a mansion in Palm Beach. He has a jet they call the Lolita Express, which has, you know, beds
It's
and
rubbing
couches
it right in your
it.
face. Yeah, it's rubbing it right in your
you
face.
know.
No, he's a somebody, and like you said, man, the rich play with different rules. I have bad news for everybody, though. It's always been that way. It was that way in Julius Caesar's time. The royalty will always win. You're watching this fucking royal baby and all these royalty, and as you all bow to them, which I will never do, I have zero fucks given about anything from the royal family, and I don't know why anyone in America does. But just keep in mind, all of you plebes that watch that, you put them on a pedestal and you have no problem doing that. Well, they take full advantage of that. Epstein is your royalty. They play by different rules, and they fully believe to get off because they're friends with the people that are going to get them off. They write the checks.
Well,
I
this
don't think
does
that's
tie
ever going to
into
change.
royalty with Prince. What's his name?
Oh, yeah, Prince Andrew was...
Prince Andrew.
he
Yeah,
definitely
Prince
was a part
Andrew's
of this.
heavily involved in this.
He was with the one girl, and her name escapes me, but he's with the one girl that she's been around with everybody. There's pictures of her with Eminem. There's pictures
She's the
of
one
her
that did
with
the
P. Diddy.
YouTube video.
Uh-huh.
That interview, you can tell by that, just the way that she speaks about it, that's too real to be fake. She can't be making that
No,
up.
I
I mean,
believe
she
she's totally
nailed that, and
totally
she's
right.
calm about it. And you watch that video. That interview on the Epstein victim is pretty hard hitting.
I want to give credit. Why this all came about, because you made an interesting point that I want to capitalize on, is why is this happening now? Why is he being dragged through and in New York? So, like you said, Southern District of New York that has a hard on for Trump, and they go after they're the bad boys, so to speak, of New York. I mean, that's where you go when you want shit to get done.
That's also where Alan Weisselberg, the Trump treasurer, has been snitching for like a year. So SDNY has a lot of information on Trump, whether it's
Right.
criminal or non-criminal, who knows? But they have a lot of information.
So New York, they find the loophole. Well, we'll get him in New York because he has a residency there, so they're going to get him there. There were two people that had a hand in why this also happened. There's a journalist by the name of Mike Cernovich. He's a righty. A lot of people do not like Mike Cernovich, but he had a big hand in this. He's been up Epstein's ass and talking about it for a very, very, very long time. And so Mike Cernovich had a big hand in this. But as far as mainstream media goes, it was the Miami Herald that really blew this open. And the writer's name, I'm going to pull it up here, but she basically was relentless in going after Epstein. And her name,
Yeah, the Miami Herald was the one that dug through all the court docs, that went through that plea bargain agreement, that exposed all of that. And they even had the Miami Herald guy on CNN the other day. And, they're like, well, this involves Trump. And then, and I love CNN, but then the Miami Herald guy says Bill Clinton, and they're almost like, yeah, oh, wait, cut the commercial, cut the commercial,
Julie K. Brown. So Julie had this hard-on, and she has been going after Epstein. And she's what's really put this in the spotlight. And so she deserves some credit as well.
And they've done it fair. They have been on both sides. Whether it was a Democrat or a Republican, they reported fair on all of these politicians that are involved in this case, at the Miami Herald at least. The Miami Herald has played it fair.
They have. They seem to have played it fair. I will say that I've seen some of her other things. She's not a big Trump fan. So
she's a woman.
Yeah. So. She's not a big Trump fan. And it seems that whenever I see something like Trump's on the front of everything that involves Epstein, so they're definitely pushing that. This is a way to go after Trump.
Epstein is a lot like a keystone. He's holding the arch together of a lot of political corruption around, these old, rich, white guys that, like to have a lot of sex. Like, there's kind of a group of them that is kind of like your typical, aggressive male guy. Your Bill Clintons, your Donald Trumps. I'm surprised that Alan Dershowitz is in there. But,
he's so docile.
Yeah, it seems like there's a reckoning coming for these guys. The government is what's on trial right now. Is the government going to pussy out on this, or is the government going to prosecute? I mean, because I got to be honest, I've been living in America my whole life, and I do not have confidence that they're not going to brush this under the rug.
This time it may have gotten too big for them to try that. I think
it's right on the edge. We're going to see.
This is a huge story. This is not going anywhere. Donald Trump, he has to worry a little bit. It's about proof. And one of the things we also talked about was, are they going to put other people in jail? Is that the goal here? Because you can take Epstein down. But if you're saying that Epstein had sex with these girls and that he did this for all these other guys, when do you start bringing these other guys in? And that's going to be very interesting how that happens.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this before we get off this subject, or we roll into these other pervs like Kevin Spacey. If our boy Epstein can hand you Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, do you let him off? Does he get immunity?
I don't think he's going to get immunity because he may, well, that may be the only way you get him to do that, but he may have to serve even a year. He's facing a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 45.
So 2 years, give up 2 presidents, and you're out the door? That's it?
He may not give them up unless it's complete immunity. So the question is then, was that your goal? So then you're letting the one pedo off that really organized all this so you can take 2 presidents down? Like, is that where we're at?
It would seem maybe a perversion of justice, because the presidents wouldn't necessarily be bigger criminals than him, just bigger names.
Just bigger
but
names
the country is so
papers.
hungry for this. I mean, how are you going to stop the mob?
I think that it's an interesting chess game. If you're going to lose your rook, Billy Clinton, to take out the king, Donald Trump, who is our king right now.
Yes, this is a sacrifice fly.
This is a chess move.
Yeah.
Down to another pedophile, folks.
Kevin Spacey trial is a disaster, an absolute disaster. Let me give you a couple notes on it real quick.
And wait, before you do, Kevin Spacey, tied to Jeffrey Epstein, has been on the Lolita Express. That is 100% fact, and which is odd because I think Kevin Spacey likes the young boys. And these seem to be mostly girls. So who knows
what's up with Kevin Spacey? He's an interesting cat in a dark and weird way.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, some of the stuff that he's posted just on social media since this has happened has been weird. But here's what's happened.
Yes.
He's hired a high-powered lawyer, of course, right? And the accuser's mom is like a newscaster. She's somewhat media savvy, and she's arranged a lot of this. And the relationship between the accuser and his mom and dad is just bizarre. They're real kind of like close, like they're holding hands during all this, which is just odd. The accuser had a cell phone that a lot of these texts and stuff went through, and he was texting his girlfriend and sending Snapchat pictures about what was happening with Kevin Spacey in real time. And he's like 18 years old, so it's like kind of questionable if you're an 18-year-old and this is happening in real time and you have enough, you're sober enough basically to text your friends and family about what's going on.
Right.
Are you really a victim? I mean, you could just walk away. Kevin Spacey's not a big guy. But what ended up happening is the family deleted some texts. And now the phone is completely missing because the defense wants the phone. And so they can't produce the phone. They've deleted some texts. And then the police also lied about some timeline information on the stand. So this good lawyer has just busted the case wide open.
Right. It's saying that he's also invoking the fifth, this kid now.
When asked about the text. Yep.
Yeah. There's no doubt that Kevin Spacey is probably messing around and diddling children, whether the kid's 18, 17, whatever. I don't know if he's going to go down for this. He was one of the big fish in this. That was one of the big names that they really thought was going to get in trouble, because a lot of these people lost their careers, or certainly had their careers hurt, like a Louis C.K., but he didn't face any jail time. Kevin Spacey was actually looking at possible jail time over this, if I'm not correct, right?
Yeah, he was looking at jail time. I mean, this is a real trial, but it seems like, it's kind of like a smaller venue, and he has a high-powered lawyer, so that's really helping him in this case. And then also just the mistakes that the other side is making. If you put an officer on the stand and he lies and gets caught in that lie, that's obviously going to help the defense, and that's what's happened here. Now, the kid pleading the fifth, that obviously doesn't help it either. But here's another interesting thing that when I was reading about this, I thought the kid lied and told Spacey he was 23 years old. So if you lie and tell the guy you're 23 years old and he's buying you drinks and stuff, I mean, what is Kevin Spacey supposed to check ID? I mean, I guess, but I'm just saying, this kid is no babe in the woods.
That really opens up a can of worms. That is a problem, because to lie about your age is a common thing that I believe happens with the girls when guys wind up, getting involved with underage girls, is they lied during that buying drinks phase that you're talking about. I think Kevin Spacey is going to get off.
I agree.
I think that these are key pieces that would have put him away, that if you can't hold on to those, your trial's not going to go very far.
It's going to create a Michael Jackson type scenario. He's not as famous, but where there's like a celebrity pedo on the loose, and they're going to be rooting through his past, present, and current and trying to catch him on something else. So life's going to get pretty dicey for the spaceman.
Yeah, well, we're going to see how that turns out. We're going to let Weinstein go, because we have about 10 more minutes here on the Ruthless Politics Podcast. We're zipping through these different stories. We got these leaked British cables. More embarrassment for Trump. They're always looking for a way, if it's not Ivanka in Paristan. It is the British, who's supposed to be our ally and friend, looking to subterfuge something. What happened here?
Okay, so basically the British ambassador to the U.S., his name is Sir Kim Darroch. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Mm-hmm. And the Daily Mail published these cables. By the way, if you're a politician, why are you talking on cables anymore? I mean, these cables always end up on the internet. Like, does our government not have a more secure way to talk? But so he's talking on these cables, and he's being derogatory towards Trump. He called the administration a knife fight. He said that Trump may be indebted to the Russians, and he said that the presidency may not end well. He said all the buzzwords that are going to make Trump fly off the handle. So then Trump basically says, nope, we're not working with this guy anymore, and now it's stuck in a gray area.
So, first of all, why do you think this guy goes out of his way to humiliate Trump? What's the point of this?
I wonder how the cables got leaked. That's one thing. These countries seem to be leaking stuff to take shots at Trump. So I don't know if that's a concerted effort from like the EU countries, because France did something with Ivanka, and now this cable gets leaked. I don't know how that's all happening. But what I will tell you is this. This is where I think it's kind of nonsense. Are you telling me that a British ambassador ever writes a cable that's good about America back? No way, dude. All those cables are probably like, they're trying to fuck us on this, or they may do this, or they might blow this country up. Now, this just one happens to be bad about Trump, but I highly doubt he's sending back cables like, it's been a wonderful day in America. They have great French fries. The people are wonderful. He's probably often critical.
What is the repercussions of this? So now what? We're not going to work with this guy? Like, how did this guy?
They're going to have to put in a new ambassador. They're going to have to cave to Trump, and they're going to have to put in a new ambassador, because they're going to eventually have some work that they need to get done.
Well, it has to be someone that's like trustable.
You can't have an ambassador that no one would talk to. The whole Republican Party is not going to talk to him. So that's the Senate, the White House. What are you going to do?
Well, listen, you run a business yourself. If you had somebody that you were working with closely say that you were inept, or that you're an idiot or a bumbling fool or all these other things, you probably wouldn't want to do business much with them either.
No, it's understandable. Listen, once it comes out, it's out in the cipher now, and you have to deal with the aftershocks from that earthquake. And so basically what's going to end up happening here is they're going to have to replace that ambassador. They're going to have to put somebody in really nice, if they're smart, some like maybe attractive woman to appease Trump. And otherwise, their ambassadors are going to be, shit, if he wins another election, they're going to be out in the cold for 4 years.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes. Don't talk shit. You may actually lose your job.
Don't write it. It used to be don't say it,
right?
Like write it kind of thing. That's what, like they tell you when we were kids, like just write it on a piece of paper and throw it away. But now in the modern age, it's like just say it out loud and don't write it somewhere, because that's where it's really going to be, found and released.
All right. So that's that, simply put. So going from one loser to another.
I like Eric Swalwell.
He lost his job, and another guy lost his mojo. Eric Swalwell. What's this thing? Doesn't want to stand. Can't stay erect. This thing needs Levitra.
You need Mike Viagra.
Yeah, this needs Mike Viagra. That should be a porn star's name, Mike Viagra. Eric Swalwell, the first candidate of the Democratic group of 20, 21, 22, whatever, to drop out of the race. We're all very sad about this. He was a really, really great guy. What do you want to say about your boy Swalls?
I like Swalwell. I don't know why he ran a soft campaign unless he's planning to be somebody's VP or has something else that's going on. I guess the story on the street is that the debates didn't go well, and he has a challenger possibly back home, an Afghan a person of Afghan descent that's kind of like an AOC in this area. He's from
wonderful.
the California 15th district, so a liberal person can definitely win there. And so he decided to cut his losses and focus on winning his seat back rather than stick around at the bottom of a huge presidential field.
Yeah, he was actually in danger of not making the next round of debates. Do you
know he's been in office since 2013?
No, I did
That's
not.
a good chunk of time. I didn't realize.
He is a somebody. I couldn't believe he ran. I was very surprised that he ran. I didn't think he was that much of a somebody, but he's in California. He's an ultra-progressive white male. You don't see a tremendous amount of those. You figured that he was pretty photogenic, that he was, something to be kind of reckoned with, but not in this group, not in this crowd. He really didn't have a shot. And he got in very late as well, which I didn't quite understand. So we bid him a farewell.
It seems like a weak effort. Hopefully he generated some money, or there was some other reason for his kind of weak output, because it just was a lackluster, to say the best.
Yeah, I think, like you said, he's trying to protect his
Interestingly enough, he's also married to a girl who's named Brittany Watts, and she looks just like an AOC.
How about that?
He's married to an AOC lookalike.
Very nice. Good for him. And he knows how to change a diaper, which makes him apparently very special.
Yeah, those videos during the whole campaign thing, right? Didn't he do like changing diapers campaign videos?
Yeah,
like,
more cringe, more cringe.
Yeah. I guess that's your Me Too male politician.
One other note, Tom Steyer, who was a big anti-Trump asshole, spends a tremendous amount of money on his anti-Trump message. Another billionaire hedge fund manager like Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently he's not banging any underage girls that we know about, but he's thinking he's going to jump into this race. He's going to put $100 million of his own money, obviously whatever else he can raise. So we're not done yet. A possible another Democrat, Tom Steyer, may jump in.
I like Tom Steyer because he's been running the commercials, so he has some notoriety. He's been taking the case to Trump. He'll take the case to Trump the entire time. He might be a surprise dark horse. It would be interesting if he could come out of nowhere. He has the surface charisma, but all we've seen is produced commercials. How he can talk on the fly will decide whether or not he's a flash in the pan or going to terrify other people that are in the race.
Yeah, I don't know how far he's going to go, but he's definitely going to put out a good.
Oh, he's got the money.
Message.
He'll go as far as he wants.
He can go far with his money.
Yeah.
How much time we got left, Jesse? Here, 3 minutes. Why don't we use this last bit of time to, first of all, thank you for listening. This is the Ruthless Politics Podcast, Space Coast Podcast Studios in sunny Florida. You're listening to
the Space Coast Podcast Studios, Ruthless Politics Podcast.
And who's that with?
Kid Chronic and Treez. You
Yes.
caught me off guard there for a second,
That's all
brother.
right. That's all right.
Yeah.
That's why we help you out, and we keep it going. We want to say a special rest in peace. It's politics talk, whether you're for him or against him. Ross Perot passed away, 89 years old.
I honestly loved Ross Perot. Let me just say a little thing about
Yes,
Ross
go ahead.
Perot. When I was a kid growing up, man, one of the things I would listen to was Rush Limbaugh, because I had a family member that listened to that, so that was an intro to politics. And one of the first politicians that caught my eye was Ross Perot. He had these big ears, he was a small guy, and he would like pay for time, like he almost like bought commercial time, if you will, on television. And he would give these really informative kind of speeches, if you will, or really it was like a teaching lesson. And he would talk to us about the economy and about the debt and about all kinds of things that no other politician was talking about. And I thought it was really great. I know he had a big effect on one election and people got mad at him because he kind of split the vote. And I know he had a huge company. I think it was Texas Instruments, and he was a big art collector, 89 years old. But to talk about politics and not mention Ross Perot's death would be sad, because he was a big time politician and a presidential candidate at one time.
Absolutely. And your last one-term president, Bush the father, probably wasn't only a one-termer, because Ross Perot got involved in that election and split that Republican Party. He gets a lot of blame for that got Billy Boy in. So
American politics has feared the extra third-party candidate ever since Ross Perot.
Absolutely. He did make the mark. So there you go, folks. On that note, Ross Perot, we wish you the best. And to your family, rest in peace. You definitely made an indelible mark on American politics.
And American business.
Absolutely. So
R.I.P. Ross Perot.
Yeah, R.I.P. You're listening to Ruthless Politics. We're wrapping it up here. Episode number 4.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
You got it. Kid Chronic and Treez. We're out.